All right, today is Wednesday, February 18th. This is the Mount Lebanon Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'd like to call the meeting at 6 o'clock p.m. David, can we do a roll call, please?
Yes. Mary Ann Banks?
Here.
Natalie Drozda?
Here.
Ian Hurley? Here. Pat King? Tom Langston?
Yes.
Amanda Rost? Tom Sufchuk?
Yes.
Okay. Michelle Varnell? And JJ Zanetta.
Here. As we get through this, I'd like to also just acknowledge Nick Petty. He's the new commissioner from Ward 4. He's a part of our group, so welcome to our I guess you'd call it our advisory board, right?
Excellent.
So thank you, welcome. We have the minutes from prior January 21st, 2026 meeting. Any questions, any adjustments, changes that need to be made to that? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second
All in favor?
it.
Opposed? David, please note that the meeting's notes from January 21st, 2026 have been approved. Phil, did you drive, and do we have any citizen comments tonight?
No.
Anyone to do that? Chairman's report. I don't think that Amanda had anything there for that. We'll go into to the commissioner liaison report. I don't know if they gave you forewarning that we do that, but typically in years past, it's an update of what's going on in the community from a commissioner's perspective, and anything that we would be aware of pertaining to parks and recreation.
Well, I think the only piece of news that, I don't know if David was going to discuss it or not, we got a $850,000 grant funding for the rec center accessibility enhancements from Chris Deluzio's, got that for us. So that's,
Excellent.
yeah.
And that's funding that we applied to the existing rec center, or how does that work? Is it recreational, is it recreation, or is it specific to
It's specific to that project.
project?
Yep, accessibility and expansion. So we need to look into if there's an expiration on that. There likely is. And then we would just need to decide how we would use those funds. So, but it's great news. That's $850K we didn't have before. So
That's awesome.
yeah, we're excited about that.
Good. Anything else you'd like to share, self or just perspective of the eagerness you bring to the new role?
I was really happy that I got this assignment from the commission. Passionate about our parks and our recreation activities too as well. I went to last Thursday, they had the Citizens Academy, or I don't know if I'm even pronouncing that right. It's where you get to learn about different departments. And Zach from the Recreation Department presented, which was really, really nice, excellent presentation. So I told David how well he did. But just the overview of all the things that the rec department is doing is just phenomenal. And I wish my kids were still young. I have a 31-year-old that's turned 31-year-old and will be 27 to be able to participate into this kids safety camp, which sounded amazing. So yeah, I've lived in Mount Lebanon for 25 years. The kids were all raised in Mount Lebanon and just really enjoy it. So that's just a little bit about me.
Good. Well, you'll learn that you have a super engaging, super committed group here, and we really look forward to you being a part of that.
Great.
Welcome. Phil, staff liaison report.
Yeah, quick one on my end. Good stuff, things moving. So met over at Rockwood. You remember the fall zone we did over at Williamsburg, Highland Terrace. Grabbed some funding for that this year. We met, marked out extents of where we want to work. Kind of decide on how many fun certs that add inclusive play elements will fit on that surface. So from there, it starts to get ugly before it looks better. So I'll be posting signs of, what's gonna be coming in the weeks. Because at first glance, it'll look like we're ripping out a park. So that information will most likely go out on a LEBO alert. Commissioners will all be briefed on it. Whole list of frequently asked questions about the surface, why, warranties, what are we gaining? All that'll be answered, all the way around, posted around the perimeter of the park. We'll most likely use some laydown in kind of I'll call it a neighborhood shared lot type deal down there. There's a little scratch of pavement, so we'll, kind of alert that we're gonna be taking up that lot as well for laydown for gravel and stuff like that. Hoping to be wrapped up with that mid-April. So we'll be rolling down there pretty soon. Aside from that, just eager to get back on these fields. Obviously, that's not anytime in the near future. But we have our fertilizer seed program that's based off soil samples. So we'll, get rolling with our programs for there. So as soon as the weather breaks some more, you'll start seeing more park ID signs pop up, as well as ordering of the funding that was carried over for additional directional signage. And then we got another nice little chunk to continue. We'll do wayfinding and park systems with that. That's all I got.
Excellent. One of the things that it was cool, I got Dave Gloss, who runs the softball, had indicated that they're having a required coaching clinic. And a part of that will be field preparation. So I would like to follow up with you on that.
Yeah,
It's a big
I'd love
part
to
of
be
it, as
there.
these sport teams use, and they use these fields to try and educate them on
Cool.
proper care and usage and when to stay off of it. And so
Yeah, pass my info along, please.
we have more of that across the other teams, and other usage would be great. I think the golf course as well, right?
Absolutely.
You can't putt in the snow.
I've had people try
Yeah.
all week.
David?
Well, mainly routine programming, a lot of snow removal happening since we met last. I'm sure Phil and Public Works did a lot of the same. The pool project is going well. The contractors have poured the surge tank floor and walls, and they're now forming for the lid. So the surge tank, it was a very big piece of the project. That's a large tank that'll be under the deck. It's almost as big as this room. And it takes the surge of water from when you get a big influx of bathers, the water has to go somewhere. In the past, it would just go over the edge and be gone. So it is required. That's modern plumbing code for swimming pools. You have to have this surge tank. So that was done. And that'll be good. Once that lid's on, we'll get them off our deck, hopefully, and we can start to think about what we have to do, our routine tile repair, painting of the pool, etc. The contractors also poured the filter tank slab today. So that'll be the slab inside the building. That's where they're going to set the new filtration system. So we're making a lot of progress.
On time for, was it Memorial Day? Is it a?
Well, we plan to open the Saturday before Memorial Day, as always. The contractor has a substantial completion date, I think, of April 15. That would give us, our normal approximately 1 month to paint, with a couple weeks to cure and add chemicals and so on. It's going to be tight. I guarantee it's going to be tight.
You would have it no other way.
I don't know about that. But I'd like a little cushion, but here we are. So far, so good. That's what I can say about the projects.
Any update, and we can get to that, but on the pickleball courts, I mean, the constructions that have been completed.
They are substantially complete. The only thing remaining is the color coding. And so we have temporary lines. We can play right now, but we haven't had dry courts since the day they finished the lines. I noticed today, I think the snow's off, but they're still a little wet. And, we don't want to open them for one day and then revert back. So we're close. I mean, I think soon we'll be able to open them, and then we'll have a brief shutdown when they do the color coding in the spring. You need 50 degrees and rising for the coating to cure properly. And then, we'll be going full bore after that.
I drove by Meadowcroft yesterday evening, probably around 7 or so, and there were quite a few folks out pickleballing.
Good.
Everyone's got spring fever.
For sure.
It's about time we got some warm weather.
Okay, we'll touch, anything else on staff liaison reports?
That's all I have, thanks.
Great, so, moving along to, subcommittee reports, Arboretum Subcommittee, any updates or?
No, nothing to report.
Just for the sake of, maybe taking we're ahead of schedule, maybe give first for Nick, give him a little overview of what you guys have done in the past and getting the trees and getting I know you guys have been super passionate about that and I think it's a pretty cool thing that we do that doesn't necessarily get a ton of PR across the community, but if you wouldn't mind or not, give us a little bit.
I mean, the whole municipality is designated as an arboretum, and that, in order to keep that designation, we've committed to providing a tree-themed event every year of some sort. And the Nature Conservancy had been handling it in previous years. 2 years ago, we had a tree giveaway where people signed up and we gave away 150 trees. It was really, really great thing. They were all native trees to the area and they were sent out to all the residents here. This past year we had a ASCA Master Gardener table at the Mount Lebanon Uptown Market. And I think we'll probably do that again this year and then maybe add a few more events as well. But just, that's kind of the sort of things that we've done so far that I've been involved with.
And Phil, that's kind of in tandem with your, with Public Works and engagement of the trees and planting and, I mean,
Yeah, just to acquire that accreditation, you have to, prove that you have funding levels dedicated towards forestry operations. Basically that you are putting an effort in behind that's backed by municipal operations as well. So it's been going on a while. It's pretty good.
And it's my understanding that those programs have to be some educational component.
Yes.
That's why we brought in the Penn State Master Gardeners, as well as having some education about the free trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
In previous years also, like, there've been maple sugaring events that have counted for and things like of that sort. So.
It's amazing, thank you.
Great.
That's all to keep our tree city status, isn't it, or am I confusing?
The Arboretum?
Yeah.
They're separate, but they help each other, if that makes sense.
Anything else you'd like to add, Jenny? You've been a super engaged person, individual.
Well,
with it as well.
I think you're on it too, because we haven't met for a while, and I'm old and forgetful. The Trail Connectivity and Mapping Subcommittee, with us and Elaine Kramer and Ron Block, who've been very active in the Conservancy, and most of you probably know, worked with Phil extensively a year or two ago on developing planning for trail upgrades and maintenance strategies in the three passive use parks, and we're hoping for a investment in the 2025 or 2026 budget, which didn't come to pass. So we'll take another run at it this year, perhaps. And I see that's coming up on the agenda. So
What was the ask?
it'll be, I don't even remember.
Basically to formalize per DCNR standards of trails, to reconstruct 3, I call them your main showcase trails, your heartbeat through each passive park. That just included, yes, materials, grading, we wanted to tackle
there it
contractually.
is.
Yeah,
Okay,
so,
great.
yeah, that whole summary is right on that sheet there. Thanks, Dave.
Sure.
I think you mentioned last month, there was a piece of equipment you were looking for too to help with the trails.
Yeah, the way it ended up getting presented budget-wise, that piece was pulled out as it kind of depreciates versus an actual tangible end result project. So you'll find they're both in the budget for consideration, but not as they're labeled in here.
Should we split, is that the Ventrac?
Yeah, I
Should we
can
split it
adjust
up?
this,
Yeah,
but
okay.
for all purposes, the number and description match up.
Yep, okay.
And that piece of equipment could be used broadly in the municipality, not just,
Correct.
yeah, they're pretty awesome. Anything else on the connectivity or mapping? So,
No, thank you.
touching old business, the youth sports organization oversight umbrella organization. Nick, this was a study that was done, if you're familiar with it or not, but David, 2 years ago, we made an effort to communicate with all from high school down to the youngest ages of anyone that uses a grass or turf surface in the community to understand age, numbers, time of year, to maximize the actual utilization of the surfaces, the green surfaces for athletic and activities in Mount Lebanon. Like some of the quick things we found that we were able to take the numbers like 1,200 hours we were able to improve, where the elementary schools all had different starting hours, after school starting hours. And so we were able to standardize that with the school district, that they were able to get on the fields at 4:30. I think whatever it was,
Yeah.
but it was a simple, we've always done it this way, and this school did it, this elementary school, so aligning needs and aligning the utilization to understand what it is was huge. It's a pretty comprehensive document, get you to look at if you'd like, but identifies was also based on the backing of the Aspen Institute study on youth sports numbers increasing, decreasing. Obviously, if you look at the high school and middle school and the recreational sports, there's not enough space. There isn't enough there. So, they want more. There's a balance of that. So making sure that we're utilizing the space that's allocated properly and then get into Phil's area of recovery, staying off turf surfaces, or, natural surfaces when it's wet or it's poor conditions, the damage. So that's what the youth sports organization oversight looked at, was how these fields are used, how these green surfaces are used, and then the potential development of an umbrella organization to help manage the utilization, maintenance, and oversight of those surfaces. I think, if I'm right, 13 school district fields.
I want to say 15, but you could be right.
13 or 15 other fields utilized for rec or actual school district. And then you have Seymour, Middle, Dixon, and then Bradfordton and some of the other Bird
We
Park.
have 5, they have like 15 or 16, something like that. And just for Nick's reference, it is in the SharePoint site in the drive. We do have this study if you want to read it.
What's the title?
It's the field census.
Field census.
Field census study is I believe the folder, and then the same title for the document.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. That ties a little bit into the signage too. That was something that came out of the master plan. I think the review of the master plan was field signage, and Phil's team's done an awesome job of getting them installed. I think it's been a big improvement to the view, of visitors as well as residents of the community. So we're excited to see that continue. Roll that into the proposal of Middlefield. Still working with that. There has been a family that had submitted an application of interest. I don't know if you're familiar with what's required for the naming. David, is that in the file as well? But
That's also in the drive. Virtually anything we've ever talked about is
yeah,
gonna
so
be in there.
I can get that to you. But basically, there's a process in which a field can be named, and what's the protocol and what goes through that. So there's actually a couple. One for Middlefield is basically an unnamed entity, and there is a family, a Mount Lebanon family, that has expressed interest in that. And there's a couple other. I know we talked to the Seymour family about the continuation of that field. So working through some of the naming. And David, it may make sense to do that as proposal to maybe we just regulate naming of certain fields as far as when they come up, as opposed specific to Middle.
We could change that.
I know there was another one for the studio rink that came up as well. So, and the nice thing about that is, Middlefield, studio rink, these are not, you're not displacing a long-term, that's pretty low-hanging request, so.
Tom, do you think the proposal that you're referring to and the reason this is on our agenda now, do you think it's kind of, they're losing interest, or, I mean?
So I would say it's two things. I think initially there was a lot of us, so there's a 2-year waiting list for basically, if it's named after an individual that's deceased, there's a 2-year from the date of death to submit it. There's a requirement of a certain number of signatures, and then there's typically a list of, usually it's a type of financial benefit to the community or benefit back to the free usage. Good question. I do still very much think that there is interest there. I think it needs pushed, and I probably need to do a better job either establishing a deadline. There has been another individual that had expressed interest as well so if we have, I think, the batting cages, middle field, studio rink, I think there's maybe one other in there that were people that expressed interest in naming, so.
Has the 2 years passed on?
For
Okay.
both, yeah, there's the three of the interested parties all have met the minimum requirement to.
Looking at the trails.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yes,
Yeah, name trails too.
absolutely, right?
Yeah.
That's a good way to get some funding. We can add that to
Your
the,
name.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very much like that.
right. We were
Like
at, Beth and I were at Interlochen in Michigan, at the Institute in Interlochen, and everything had a sign to it. It was like literally everything was like, so it was cool, but there's definitely an opportunity to look at that too, trail names and, anyway, so. Any update on the Conservancy storage shed?
Yeah, I have probably one more email that needs to clear, and then I'll go over a concept for where it is. I don't even want to get into it and, go back and forth if, 2 days from now I tell you, hey, I can't put it there. So let me
Thank you.
vet that.
Yeah,
That's great news.
Phil, funding, I mean, it's been,
I believe it'll be funded by the Conservancy,
Conservancy.
the actual shed. Public Works will prep the base for it, whatever's required per our shed permit, based on, look and everything. But
Your pushing that is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
all right. New business. So we have a resiliency board presentation. We have some individuals that are here. David, we have their.
I'm gonna pull up their slides now, and I will advance them for you, so just
Okay.
let me know when.
Yeah, if you just want to go up to you can go up to the podium there and introduce yourselves, and is there any other stipulations, David, you want to?
jump out of your viewing. area.
We talked about 10 minutes and then Q&A when they're done.
Dave's gonna. Yep.
So,
10 minutes of,
I don't know why that doesn't look bigger. Give me 1 second, see if I can do better.
Okay, well, while you're doing that, I'll kind of kickstart it. I'm Eric Milliron, this is Chet Wade, and he'll give a little more background on himself. I'm the manager of economic development for the municipality. I'm the staff liaison to the resiliency board. Nice to see some faces that I know here, so that's always good. I'm gonna get existential on you. Why am I here? The reason is this. So as you know, all the advisory boards are based on the comprehensive plan. And in the resiliency chapter, I call it the Frankenstein advisory board. We sort of have a mashup of 3 different previous focus areas that had their own advisory boards. So we had economic development, that's in the resiliency board, sustainability, that is in the resiliency board, and historic preservation. So the reason we're here tonight is the first charge of the sustainability portion of the resiliency chapter is expansion of tree canopy. So when we were looking at where can we find great locations to actualize that goal in the comp plan, this Hidden Hollow Nature Restoration Project concept bubbled to the surface. So Chet's going to be going through a slide deck that has a series of slides that highlight the, where, why, and what type of circumstance. And then we're gonna kind of tag team back and forth, kind of explaining this project. But we've discussed it thoroughly. We've done site tours in the area. The Resiliency Board, reviewed all of these materials, thought through it, and a motion was made to advance the concept. As you know, when you make those motions, it goes to the manager. The manager asked that this body also take a look at it to get your input, address any questions you might have, and see where we go. So with that, I think we can probably kick it off. Is that right? You right?
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Welcome.
Yeah, I am Chet Wade. I chair the Environment and Sustainability Subcommittee of the Resiliency Board. So that's why I'm here tonight. That's why I'm up here. We call this Hidden Hollow for two reasons. One, it is hidden. Unless you're a golfer, you happen to go up to the golf course and stand and look down into that valley, that hollow, you don't know it exists. And it is a hollow. I'll show you a topographic map. It drops down into the valley pretty quickly. So we thought it was a good name for it. We thought it should have a name of some kind. We're really excited about the prospect of this. We think this is the largest prospective opportunity to restore tree canopy in Mount Lebanon today. It's by far the largest piece of municipal property where there's an opportunity, and I think the other large parcels we're all familiar with are large privately owned parcels that probably will ultimately get developed in some fashion. It's not likely they'll be available to us for this kind of a project. So we go to the next slide, please. As Eric said, local ecology is one of our remits from the commissioners. We, as you, try to follow within what we've been charged to do. And kind of a summary is that the number one thing is to expand the tree canopy, and that's to look at a forest management stewardship plan, both for municipal owned land as well as the parks and open spaces, and then install what they call a tiny forest pilot project. If you understand tiny forest, this isn't quite the exact definition of a tiny forest, but it's very much in the spirit of what a tiny forest might be and what it might do. We think this site is good for a nature restoration project rather than, say, an active park for several reasons. One, we lack such a thing right now. There is no nature preserve on this scale that I'm aware of anywhere in the municipality. We have a large park, obviously, that's not developed perhaps, but this is an opportunity to restore an area. This is a project, I think an active park would have some significant impacts on the golf course. This is a location that you cannot access unless most people would have to drive to it. They would have to park in the golf course lot. So we're not trying to encourage lots of people to come to this site rather than get the environmental benefits from it. If you have an active park, you're also going to draw people toward the community gardens. And I think the people who garden there probably would not prefer a lot of people walking by there, especially during harvest season, when it might be a little too tempting. And finally, from a liability standpoint, as a golfer, or as some people say, it's a matter of opinion, and having been down in this site, occasionally errant golfers might hit golf balls down into this location. Probably not a good place for us to draw people walking around. So that's why we thought this really works well. It also happens, as you'll see, borders mostly against Castle Shannon. So if anyone were to use it as an active park, and I love Castle Shannon, don't want to speak ill of them, but it'd be most likely Castle Shannon residents who would be wanting to come to this location if we made it the kind of place that would attract people, because it's very difficult for anyone from Mount Lebanon to get to. So we go to the next slide, please. And this will help you locate where it is, this area called Hidden Hollow. If you know the golf course, it sits off in a corner. You can see down here in the bottom, this is Castle Shannon right here, all these streets down in this area, and then the road that leads up to the golf course and the parking lot. So this is this area along the 7th fairway. In fact, if you go to the next slide, you'll see a little more close-up look at it. Here's the fairway. If you know the 7th fairway, up here is the clubhouse, the public works area, and this is the community gardens area down here. So that's where it locates, and here all the way up to the green up here. Most of it is now open. It was an area probably was wooded at one time, but this was probably cleared back when this was a farming area, and then just never had the opportunity to recover. This area down here, though, is heavily wooded. So if you go to the next one, please. This just gives you some sense of the lay of the land. You can see the golf course clubhouse, and orange and the red tends to be the highest areas, and then it fades into green and ultimately down blue when you get down, the Sleepy Hollow area. It drops down about 110 feet down to the base of the hollow from the base of the golf course clubhouse. So it drops off. Some of it kind of starts to be a gentle slope, but then pretty quickly as we found when we were traipsing around it, drop off pretty quickly. So go to the next slide, please. We took a tour of this in late summer with the folks from the Nature Conservancy, and some of it is grassy, and this is one of the benefits we would talk about. Right now, we understand that the maintenance folks come in a couple of times a year and start to cut some of this area, mow some of this area. We're saying don't do that anymore. We don't think that's actually the best thing for this site. We would rather see it restored to its natural state. They'll still need to be providing access to the community gardens, of course, but to mow the larger area, as we understand is being mowed, we don't think that's really appropriate for this site. We would recommend that it kind of stop. Okay, go to the next slide, please. You can see the 7th fairway up here, if you're those of us who are golfers. Down in here, it's hard to see, but these are cattails. There is an active wetlands in this area. A small stream runs through it. Not always active. Right now I'm sure there's water in it. Other times of the year, not so much, but I'm sure always in that area, the cattails, it's pretty marshy. So it is a wetland area as well. Go to the next slide, please. And you get some sense of the rest of it. This is the wooded area all the way at the base of it. There's a fence, you can't really see very well in here, but a chain link fence that borders up against the Castle Shannon area. And you can see some of the areas you walk around here, it gets pretty hilly in some of the areas. Go to the next slide, please. Now this map, some of you may have seen the presentation I did to our advisory board, the Resiliency Board, and I used a map that came to us from the Nature Conservancy, and I give great credit to Elaine Kramer and Ron Block for the work they did in laying out the concept. It had some active kinds of things in it, trails and benches and stuff, and that was never our view of this project. We always viewed it as a passive area. So what you see now is my rough rudimentary kind of layout of how this would work. You can see the center area where the dotted line is, that's where the little stream area is and the wetlands. So there'll be some new riparian plantings put in. Reforestation projects you can see are circled by the light green areas. Some area riparian work down here within the tree area, as well as 2 areas for what they call a food forest. So if you go to the next slide, please. What's a food forest? Well, it tries to mimic a natural ecosystem. It's a layered kind of system. It works from the top of the tree canopy all the way down to the forest floor. It's designed to help increase biodiversity, provides the kind of food and support for a variety of wildlife. And so when you have that opportunity to come in, you go to the next slide, you'll see a long list of potential plantings. And I'm not going to ask you to read this. You have a copy of this, this slide deck. So if you'd like to read this entire list of potential, but everything from silky dogwood, which I don't think I would recognize if I saw it, but all kinds of other plants. So we're not asking for a specific approval of what exact plants would go in there, but there's clearly a plan here on how you can restore this area, provide biodiversity, reduce runoff, help filter the runoff that does occur, all the things that this kind of a replanting, a restoration, a natural restoration of this area would occur. If we gave it time, we would just like to accelerate it. And so go to the next slide, please. So what are the benefits? Obviously, tree canopy, increasing that is our number one goal and our number one remit is to provide ways for the municipality to do that. Increasing biodiversity, as I said, the food forest does that, adding more wildlife, reducing stormwater runoff, there's that small stream in that area, and other potential activities in kinds of we don't look for this to be an active area, but there are places where people could, for example, put bird houses or bat houses, that kind of thing in there that would help improve the biodiversity. These are volunteer opportunities.
And bats eat mosquitoes, which really agitate when you're golfing.
Yeah, among other places, yeah. Next slide, please. So no impact on the golf course. No more people coming to use the parking lot, no people trooping around in the woods in case some errant golfer happens to slice or hook or whatever in that direction. No impact on the community gardens. That area would stay untouched, and we wouldn't be bringing more people in past it during harvest season. As I said, we would propose reducing the amount of work that goes on that site right now. Volunteer opportunities for the planting and for the bat and the bird houses, so there's a way to continue to engage the community without bringing lots of people into it. And I love the active parks. I use them all the time, but there are times and places where perhaps we can have just a more natural area. So that's really what we're looking at. So I'll turn this then over to Eric because he's done some background work on how this can be done without costing the municipality a lot or perhaps any money.
Before we, David, are we okay to extend a little bit? I mean, a couple more minutes or?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
So, yeah, and again, this entire concept is really just being more intentional with what's already happening. So, I mean, it's already in a sort of natural state, and the Hidden Hollow concept just furthers that with, again, intentional plantings. And there's a lot of opportunities for that. A big one that I wanted to touch on tonight is the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy has a grant opportunity for riparian plantings. So that grant window is open until 2027. And that provides planting trees, native trees, of course, tree protection from the critters that like to eat saplings. And it also provides some labor and folks to do those plantings. So that's a grant opportunity that we can avail ourselves of up until 2027. I'm a former board member of Tree Pittsburgh. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Tree Pittsburgh, but they're a fantastic organization. I highly encourage you to check them out. But their charge is to increase tree canopy, primarily in the city of Pittsburgh, but it does extend throughout Allegheny County. They've done projects in Upper St. Clair. They've had a little bit of dabbling here in Mount Lebanon. But they also in the spring and fall do tree programs where you can get trees from their nursery in Lawrenceville. And I know a lot of the folks there, so I can easily facilitate that. And then there are additional opportunities. A lot of this would require some labor. Trees don't plant themselves unless you let the acorns and the squirrels do their job. But there's ripe opportunity for that. People are always looking for those opportunities. So again, we're not looking to put a burden on Public Works or certainly the rec department in any way. This would be a volunteer-led type initiative, and again, with very little burden to the taxpayer.
Thank you. Why don't we take a couple minutes? Awesome, very comprehensive. David, confirming that this is added to our shared file?
Correct, both versions, the previous slide deck and this one.
So we would encourage everyone to review that, to identify if there's any questions or anything that may come out of that from clarification, and we can add this as a topic of discussion at a future meeting. Are there any questions of the advisory board now?
What's the rough order of magnitude budget?
Budget?
Yeah,
Well, we haven't put pencil to paper on this because we're in the process of, like, for instance, what we're doing tonight. So, the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy grant, and I'm going to be talking to Tom Saunders about it. That would $0. So whatever, so that's open to the county. So, how competitive that is. I don't think it's very well advertised. So I think we would be pretty competitive at getting that. So there's zero cost. We would work with Elaine and Ron and other subject experts to make sure that any plantings would be done appropriately and properly to that nature. And again, with Tree Pittsburgh, sometimes you can get those trees at a very reduced rate, or you can get them at no charge. And then there are other grant opportunities that you could go for, through Allegheny County, through gaming funds and lots of other things. But provided this moves forward, my first step would be to apply to the Conservancy. And I've already started to reach out. I know Tom Saunders, who's the chairman of the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, so, he's a resident as well. So I think we would be, we're not guaranteed anything, but I think we would have a very competitive shot.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen.
well, just one more quick question.
Sure.
It's great, and I'm certainly excited by the prospect. I'm just curious. So time frame, obviously a function of funding and all that. Is this something ideally that could go in this year or next year or?
It could go. We could go in this year. I mean, the moment that. So just a little bit of process. We're here for edification and hopefully support. At some point, we're going to be doing a presentation to the commission at a discussion session, and then seeing how things go. Then once I get a green light, I'm going. I'm out of the gate, so I'll be going to the Conservancy and starting to make those arrangements. In terms of time frame, I mean, this is biology. It's the nature of the cycle of nature. So it's an ongoing type circumstance. So I think as, opportunities present themselves, that can be done. But there would obviously have to be coordination with our friends at the golf course and the rec center and Public Works and whoever else might need to be involved in that discussion. It's not like we're just gonna show up one day with a bunch of black cherries and oaks and plug them in. I mean, this will be open dialogue, and there'll be a process that'll develop, I think, organically, if I can use that word again.
But as they say, the best time to plant a tree is 30 years ago. So the sooner the better is always my motto with this kind of thing.
Right, and again, we're really just, if you can to go back in your mind to one of the slides that showed the overview, the woods are already there and the meadow is already there. Again, we're just simply teasing that wood line out along that, I hate to call it a stream, but the marshy area.
Yeah, down this center line.
So it's
here.
basically just, teasing this out, and again, in an intentional way that expands the tree canopy. And we're looking for other opportunities, so if anybody has thoughts.
I have a quick question. Are there any specific, benefits to the golf course where this is located in terms of improvements? I don't know if, there's a wetlands there, for instance. Is there anything that you could specifically tie back to the golf course?
I think some of the best golf courses are not just great golf courses because they're challenging. They're great golf courses because they're aesthetically pleasing. They're beautiful. And, this creates that. I was joking, but I'm not joking. I mean, by putting bat houses and encouraging birds, you're also eliminating pesky things like mosquitoes that carry all sorts of viruses and nasty things.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those sorts of benefits. In terms of gameplay, no. This is, but it's underused, highly unlikely. And I can't speak for the rec department. I'm not. I'm just speaking for the very pillared reason we're here. This is a great opportunity to expand tree canopy with minimal impacts. In my opinion, zero impact. But I'm not the expert on that. That would be for Colin.
I assume you're a golfer? You play?
I very poorly.
Oh, yeah, I'd say, people ask me to play, I'd say it's a matter of opinion. But if you know this area, this area is not pretty. If you play the seventh, right now, this area is not pretty, but if you make it look better from the aesthetic of playing the course, all of a sudden it becomes a much nicer hole. I still probably will score poorly, but at least I'll be happier when I do it. So this area, any of this area, like when you look down on it, a lot of it isn't aesthetically, it's natural, but it's not aesthetically as nice as it could be. And then the other thing is, I know the golf course folks are very careful in what they use on the course, but ultimately, this does drain down into this area. So anything that helps filter, anything that keeps it out of the watershed ultimately would be a benefit, a secondary benefit to the golf course in that it reduces the impact of the course.
Well, I thank you for your information. It's very, very detailed and gives us a lot to think about, and we will add it to future conversations.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Racket Center court update. David, is there anything there that we need to touch base on?
We sure do. I also have a presentation. I'll try to be brief. This thing rolling here. Okay, so it was requested by this board that we do some court analysis in response to a citizen interested in hard courts at the tennis center. It's also a recommendation of the Parks Master Plan that we do tennis court analysis. And it's also been a goal of the Recreation Department and mine to do some analysis on our racket center. So this was a good, timely project, and I decided to tackle it myself. I've discussed it a little bit with our manager, Darren Rosso, and he'll probably, take over a more active role in this moving forward. But for now, this was my analysis. So utilization analysis started with understanding the schedule and the scope of hours that would be available. So you start with the schedule, and by the way, I went to outdoor season 2025. That's the closest season that we had, as I mentioned at the last meeting. It's best to do this at the conclusion of a season, otherwise it's very labor intensive. You need the whole data set before you start analyzing it, or it's gonna be a lot tougher. Our software doesn't allow for a, pre-programmed utilization report. So I do a data dump and then I use Excel to come up with what we're looking for. So understanding the scope of hours, 8 to 9, Sunday through Thursday, and Saturday, 8 to 7, so either 13 or 11-hour days. Our regular outdoor season is May 1 to September 30. Our non-bubbled courts, we kept open through October 31st, which we try to do when weather permits, and if it's agreeable, we will do that. Bubble courts, we have to close around September 15 because we're prepping to put up bubbles. We're taking down nets, net posts, removing benches, and then having a bubble up day prior to October 31st. So there's a lot going on in those courts. So that's numbers 3 through 8. We can't go any longer with those. Also had to be factored in was the court construction this year on courts 1 and 2. We converted to pickleball on August 18. So those courts were only open for 15 weeks. And then courts 3 and 4 were closed almost the entire season, May 1 through August 31st. So we only had 4 weeks at the end of the season where we could actually open courts 3 and 4. So it's also helpful to understand what all these courts numbers I'm throwing at you, where are they? If you don't play tennis, you probably don't know. But if you look at our image up here, we have Cedar Boulevard on the left, and at the bottom of the screen, we have Morgan Drive. In that lower left-hand corner where you see the blue numbers 1 through 6, that was previously courts 1 and 2. It is now pickleball courts 1 through 6. Once Google updates their satellite images, I'll have actual courts in there, but this is what we have right at this moment. Next, the green numbers 3 through 8, we'll say, within the white blocks, those are the bubbles. So those are the bubble courts. And then 9 through 15 are the remaining Hartrupe courts. In the foreground, in the pink, we have courts 1 through 4. Those are our platform tennis courts. And off to the right, A and B, that's our hitting wall. So that is just sort of the lay of the land, if you will, on which courts are where. So the next thing we want to do is visually look at this schedule and then calculate the number of time slots we have, because that's the denominator in a lot of these different scenarios that we were going to look at. So down the left side, we have all the courts, including hitting wall A and B. Across the top, we have the days of the week. And then the total hours for the week times weeks gives you hours of availability. As you would expect, there's 13 slots Sunday through Thursday, 1 less if the court doesn't have lights, I should say. Friday and Saturday, we close before sunset, so lights aren't an impact. We have mostly 11 there. And then for bubble courts and courts where we had construction, we had to lower the number of weeks because they weren't available. And that kind of gives you the universe of hours available. We did include the hitting wall in our number of hours available, although it's not really the same use and it doesn't get the same usage. And we'll talk more about how that affects the calculations a little bit later. But in the end, we have over 30,000 hours of court time available, and that excludes rainouts and maintenance. And we did not subtract those, although we could. I just, chose not to at this stage. We'll talk more about that in some future slides here. Okay, so this slide tells us the number of hours each court was used and each court's percentage of overall use. So we simply took the hours the court was used over the total hours of use just to come up with a, percentage of use. This, I don't know, it's kind of a popularity thing, like just so you could see which ones were used most, but it's not purely popular because we make decisions about where to put different activities on courts. courts were under construction, so it's just one way to slice the data to give you a little visual there. And so it makes sense to us. 11 and 12 were popular, we're not surprised by that. They are single court enclosures, so there's not a court beside them. People generally prefer to play in a court by themselves. There's no errant balls rolling around on their court, or less noise, I should say. So people enjoy that. These courts, 11 and 12, are also shaded. They're immediately adjacent to the tennis or racket center building, which is convenient. They're also the only courts where you can rent the ball machine. So for all those reasons, they're shady. I don't know if I said that already, but those are all reasons why people might select those courts more than others. 7 and 8, some interesting things about those is leagues and our rec clinics typically go there because they're spectator seating. They're also shady and they are also popular. So that there's unique attributes about each location that speak to its usage. Court 15, it's not a bust at 467 hours and 7% of the usage, but it is a single court, and you might think, well, why is that not used more? Why is that not up there with court? What's another single 9? We believe, and this is just an opinion, it's a single court, but it's also on top of the hill. People typically don't like to go to the top of the hill. And it's also right next to the hitting wall where there could be additional noise. So those could be some explanations there. 13 and 14 are on top of the hill, but they're doing pretty well right there with court 15. And we just happen to have some ladies groups that really prefer that. I hesitate to mention it, but they play music. We typically don't allow that, but they're out there on the fringe. And so that's one of the reasons probably why they like to do that. So anyway, again, hitting wall has less use comparatively, and it is down near the bottom at 1% or less. But also, it might not have all the data because we don't watch that court or that area as well as we do everything else. It's very isolated, and it's also free. So if people just roll in and start playing, we might not even be aware. Whereas a paid court, if you roll up and start playing and we don't notice you, there's somebody else with a reservation that's going to say, hey, this is my court. So for those reasons, we think the hitting wall is a great asset, and I think the racket center community values it highly. It just doesn't, we don't have the data to back up its use right now. And hey, maybe that's a good reason why we're doing this, and we need to tighten that up and encourage people to actually, because you can't book it online. You can book it at the front desk at the racket center. So we do want to encourage people to do that the proper way. So another thing I thought might be important.
On that last slide, just out of curiosity, on average, each court has, in theory, like 2,000 hours roughly, if there are 15 courts and 30,000.
Mm-hmm.
So,
except for construction, lights and no lights, and
sure.
on and on, but yes.
So it's curious, like courts 11 and 12 are, just 50% used all the time. So neither here nor there, just curious.
Okay. So next up, we want to look at what are we doing with our courts. I broke it down into the categories. Open just means you booked a court and you're playing tennis. So it's either booked online or in person. I just chose open as the name. There's no magic to that. Programs, that's our rec programs. Leagues, these are USTA or other leagues that we host. These are not leagues that we would collect signups for and things like that. We're just providing the space for a league. Private lessons, these are our instructors. We only allow our staff to teach on our courts, but they are not part of our program. We don't collect the money. This is a arrangement between, the instructor and the student or students. We simply provide that time, and we do control that time. We only allow our staff because our staff is the one teaching in our clinics, And we have rules around that, but anyway, that's not what we're talking about today. And so we have over almost 60% use is open. That's our walk-up or reserved play by individuals playing tennis, either doubles or ball machine or singles. Program, I think, is pretty respectable, so 25% of that time is programmed use. Prior to our new model of rec center running the tennis center year-round, one of our criticisms was you don't offer enough programs. So I think this is where Amanda would say, having the data is invaluable. Well, 25% of the time on these courts is programs. And, it probably wasn't a year ago, but it is now. So I think that's a good sign. I think, leagues and private lessons at roughly 8% each, that seems good. Moving forward, we'll have a frame of reference. We'll know, more about how we feel about that. But we can drill into this endlessly. I could tell you by instructor who's teaching the private lesson, and maybe instructor A is teaching too much and they need to dial it back so instructor B and C can get a little more time. So anyway, good information to have, and we've broken it down for you there. So the next thing I want to look at is usage by time. What time slots are popular, what times aren't? And again, we have a pretty good understanding by being on site and monitoring this, but this is the actual data. So this looks at the usage for the whole facility each hour of the day. So down the left, every one of those is a 1 hour time slot. And across the top, we have all our courts. So the utilization rate is the thing we're trying to drill down to on the far right. That is simply the hours booked or the hours used divided by the number of hours available. So again, this is by time slot available, not all day time slot available. So at 8 a.m., we are using 28%. I gotta move my cursor maybe, or Phil's cursor. There we go, 28% of our 8 a.m. time slots. And those two gray bands are just representing the busiest times for the center, 8 a.m. to noon and 5 to 8 p.m. So I think that's interesting to note. And again, it's probably not a surprise. There are times, though, I would caution people where the center is 100% booked. So we also need to look at peak times. I drew this out all the way to October 31st. Well, we're down to whatever I had left at that point, like 9 courts. We're down to 9 courts, and we're at the tail of the season. The weather's not great. People are, putting away their rackets and thinking about getting their skis out, maybe, I don't know. So it's not really, I'll use the word fair, but that's not really the right word that I'm looking for. It's not completely accurate representation of utilization rates when you look at it spread across an entire season and across an entire day, when we know that middle part of the day, the heat of the day, a lot of people are choosing not to play. Working people, it's natural. There's not going to be as many that are available to play between 9 and 5. So those utilization rates can be deceiving, I think, a little bit. But there they are, for better or for worse. Oops, did I go 2 slides there?
Yes.
Yes, I did. Okay, so utilization rate by court, this is the other thing I wanted to look at. So instead of hours used, or the hours booked on that court over the hours used, now we're looking at the hours booked on that court over the total hours that were available. And again, I did not subtract maintenance and rainouts out of the denominator. We could do that moving forward, and I did do a little calculations on that. It's not going to be a dramatic change, but it does change things. Including courts, hitting wall A and B in there, that adds 2 time slots to every hour. So again, I think that's watering down our utilization rate a bit, and probably not what we want to do moving forward, but that's how we sliced it this time. And again, I don't think it's going to be a a massive shift by 15%, but it's gonna drive that number up a little bit and make it look a little bit better. And also keep in mind here, courts 1 through 4 had reduced availability. So we're not surprised to see them on the bottom. 2, 3, 4, and hitting wall A and B again, those are the smallest utilization rates for, good reason. But anyway, so this is a great frame of reference. It's not perfection. I don't know that we'll ever get there, but I think it was a good exercise and a good first effort. So we'll do things different, I think, in the future. One, I think we will somehow show maintenance and rainouts, probably in more than one way. We'll probably remove it from the denominator, but then we'll probably also show it as a percentage, of overall court availability. I think that will resonate with people. Oh, geez, well, you were, 5% of the year, you couldn't even get on the court. Because that is one of the things about a Hartrue court. It does absorb water pretty well, but after a significant rain event, particularly on the bubble courts, which are a little bit harder, it will stay wet. And it pretty much wipes out a minimum of 4 hours from the last raindrop. So that's a factor that's involved there. We will look at removing the hitting wall and treating that as a separate resource. The denominator will just be the hitting wall and the usage will just be the hitting wall. I think that makes way more sense. We will examine peak usage. I want to pull out the peak months, the peak days, so that we can see, we're at capacity on this day a week or 85% capacity during this month of the season. So, you don't want to just throw out, say, hey, we're going to repurpose 4 courts because you're only at 35% capacity. Well, we need those courts at certain times if we're going to continue to host the programming we do, the leagues we do, the events we do. So those are some things that will illustrate, I think, a little bit better. We're also going to be down 2 courts, so from henceforth, we will renumber all those courts. So when we're comparing, we can't compare court 1 and 2 to court 1 and 2 anymore. We need to be cognizant of the fact that is the old court 3 and 4, if that makes sense. So just to make it easier on people navigating the courts, we opted to change those numbers. So that should be rolled out in the spring. And we also intend to provide similar reporting for the indoor season, for the pickleball courts, the platform courts, but it's, going to take some time. We could go back, we have the history on platform, we could do that. That'd probably be simple. We will be able to do the indoor season as soon as it wraps up here in, when are we wrapping up? April 7, I believe. So we'll be able to run analysis on indoor fairly quickly. It is a bit labor intensive. It did take some work, but I think now that I kind of have the knack of it, I think we'll be able to speed things up a bit. Although every new facility is going to be a new denominator, so you have to calculate all those things. There'll be new, differences, maintenance projects or construction projects. But anyway, we do intend to continue this moving forward as needed. I think we're going to do it all up front here for everything. And then, we're not going to do it every season, but we will be able to do it when we need to. And we can also drill down, like I said before, into different areas. We could drill down by court, by activity, by time of year, whatever it takes. We'll be able to do that. And I think it's going to give us some great information. So again, it's great analysis to have. It's going to help inform future decisions, expansion, conversion. It's a benchmark for comparison. It's a performance indicator. And we can provide whatever detail is needed. So
as a quick just reference point, Nick, it was 2 sessions ago, we had a resident that expressed interest in, Phil, you're going to help me on this, I'm going to embarrass myself, there's grass, clay, hard true, and then coated asphalt, or the typical tennis surfaces. And the municipality has hard true, which is, I guess it's a type of clay, or it's a softer material. And the request was made to convert or to increase the coated asphalt courts, which as I understand, are more universal for tennis on a national basis as opposed to hard true. So that was the original request. I think one of the things that first, backed by passion, the resident was very passionate about tennis and increasing it, which I think we're all here for the same purpose. One of the things that, David, your time is, and I commend you for taking that time, is it's hard to make decisions on perceptions and observations. And there's always the gotcha, right? Hey, someone's not at Dixon, damn sure you get a phone call. It's 8 o'clock at night, no one's at Dixon, you're not using the fields. There's always something that's there. But I think this speaks to what the sports advisory board put together. And I think if we were to take the time and look at the other areas of the municipality where we have facilities and look at utilization, I think it helps speak to where funds should be spent and how they're spent. And it also allows us to have measurable responses back to the residents of why decisions are made. And so we're not relying on emotion, we're not relying on observation, it's based on facts. So I think, David, this is excellent from a conversation standpoint, gives the commission a basis to stand on, allows us to look at future needs, but it also allows us to address investment needs and all the other things that go to it. So again, I think that maybe this is something we can take back to the commission. If we're not speaking of unmeasurable terms,
Right.
This is a perfect example of a question that came up from a resident where it was, no one knew. That David's teams put time together to measure it, and I think we have a really good position to have a conversation now. So
We do have asphalt courts, just one.
Williamsburg Park.
Okay.
And again, trying to, without embarrassing myself, school district has high school foster, I think the school district has hard surfaces,
Correct.
but they can't be used during school hours.
So correct.
So it reduces kind of that parallel, and maybe if you think big, there's an opportunity to cross over into that utilization of some of those surfaces into the future for that purpose. But really limited to with neighborhood parks, mainly basketball, more so than tennis. So the true hard asphalt, is that a coated asphalt?
Yes. It's a coating over asphalt that requires ongoing maintenance budgeting, so not just a one-time deal.
Yeah. But it becomes a space where, and unfortunately, what we're all faced with is what's given up for what is given to get.
Yeah.
It's a give to get conversation, which I think David's point, that's exactly what we're here for, right? Show us the math. Tell us what's going on, right? It makes that conversation a lot easier.
And we're open to hard courts at the tennis center. I've talked about it with the tennis center manager. He's intrigued and he's excited about it. I mean, it would open up a high performance track for us because high school kids play on asphalt. Well, we can't really train asphalt. We can train clay courts, but we can't train asphalt. So we're open to that, but I think we're at least, at least 6 months, if not a year or more, on pulling the trigger on that because we don't have the data. One, we haven't played 1 minute of pickleball. When we open these pickleball courts, if they are inundated, I guarantee you there's going to be a group that wants more pickleball. And we need to look, well, how's our racket center, how are our tennis courts performing now that we've taken 2 out of circulation? So we need some time to digest all this, but we're open to it. I mean, it could be an exciting addition and open up some new opportunities. So it's definitely on the table, but we need to look and see what the data says as we move forward a little bit.
And the need too, I mean, if it's just
Right,
one
right.
person that's bringing that forward,
That's a great
the
point.
community.
We should go back and look at the survey data from the Parks Master Plan and the Main Park Master Plan and just see how many times hard courts were suggested. I also did a program survey in, I want to say 23, 24. So I have a ton of data in there, but it was primarily program focused, but it did ask facility-based questions as well. So I could search that data and see if that's helpful at all. Anecdotally, and I think I told the gentleman that was here, I don't know that anyone has personally come to me until that gentleman did and said, I want hard courts. Because to me, at the time, I thought, there's no way anyone's gonna go for this. And when I ran it by Darren, the racket center manager, he was really open to it and convinced me that this might be a good idea too. So it's on the table. We'll just, what do people want?
David, I know that, and we've talked about this as well, you know, from an opportunity, and there's an open lot at the backside of 7-8, which the
Beyond Court 9 at Hollycrest and Cedar, there's
Yeah.
like a little
I
triangle.
mean, that's something we've historically
Yeah.
talked about as well, that space that is not, I mean, it's.
You've got room for probably one
We'd
court.
we'd have to do a 10-to-1 planning rate, cut some trees down, you gotta plant.
There's also,
Maybe a 20-to-1.
are the basketball courts there? I mean, heavily used, I'm assuming, but also with future rec center plans for interior basketball courts may alleviate some of that. And then it could be a consideration in the future if that use is transferred into a new rec center.
And I think it rolls into, we talk parking, accessibility, safety, I mean, there's a ton of, you know, there's only so much that area can take.
Right, we could use it 5 different ways.
And now you've taken 2 courts and you've made 6, so you're gonna have more congestion, and so I think there's a lot to learn, but as the many years I've been on this, I think the trend has been now to use math as an equation of understanding need and you know, if we take a tennis court and make it asphalt or coated asphalt, does that solve the problem? If it doesn't, you know, again, these are the things I think we go back to when we measure. So, good job, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that? You're good. I know we've gone over a little bit, so with respect to everybody's time, the comprehensive plan goals accomplished, we talked about that. I don't know that there's anything in that. We could probably table that unless there's a need or a conversation that needs to be made with that.
Just a quick comment if I can. Again, it's in your folder. We've talked about this before. It's just been recently updated and it's due, I think, next month. So please just review it, and this board was very helpful last year of pointing out some things that I didn't know about that we added to the report. So just, you know, consider things that were accomplished that are from the comp plan or the Parks Master Plan in those categories. It's all laid out, so it's really easy. And you can, it's a PDF, so you can't add it yourself, but just email Phil or myself or both of us, please. And we'll add it, and then that'll be the final report for this year. And this is a living, breathing document. Every year we do it again. So then there'll be a new one up there as soon as this one's done for 27, or for 26. Yeah, we're talking about what was done in 25 right now. Yeah.
And that ties back into which Nick has been very helpful is the master plan, the Parks Master Plan, to understand, you know, how does it, you know, what does it work, and it's great to see things come off of that. You know, we're actually achieving and checking things off of that, so that ties into that. Is there any topics or any conversations around that? I mean, that's a big project. And then 2026, you know, we do have the prioritized, one of the things that we've been asked to do historically is to provide the commission a ranking or a preference of areas of focus, which is the 2026 improvement project. So I think that's been established, it's been approved. You know, David, I think you have established the priority and interest of what we feel is important to both parks and recreation.
We have a list in there, and we used like last year's list, and it's in your packets as well here. I just updated last year's list, as did Phil, with new projects from the CIP, and we did strike through text for anything that was funded, so it's off the list, just so you can visually see what got funded and what we don't need to have on the list any further. And I know you were concerned about time, Tom. So let me just pull up our deadline on this real quick and see what you want to do.
I think there's a March submission.
The March is for the comp plan goals. So in other words, this is your last shot. So give me something in the next week or two, and then we're gonna finalize that and send that out. So we're done with the comp plan for this year essentially, and except for whatever suggestions you want to give us. For the CIP items, we actually have until May, but it does typically take 2 meetings to get through that. So we could use, March, April, and May to get that done. I don't think it's critical that we go through that list today. But I want to get something in front of you because, we always start thinking about it and then, I believe it's the March meeting, maybe it's the April meeting where we get new members. Some members rolling off, new people coming in, we gotta bring them up to speed. So we never finish this as quickly as we think we're going to. So that's why I give it to you now, so you have a lot of time to think about this. And then, if new people are on board, they're just gonna have to have faith that you all know what you're doing. And you've had a lot more familiarity with this. They can certainly give their input, but we can't rehash this indefinitely. We have a deadline. It has to get turned in May.
And Nick, for the benefit of the historical, when the two groups came together, we've been presented with capital budget approved items that are driven by, the commissioners, which I think our influence is to say, hey, we support this, or, this is an area that is supported by the community. I think, I'll speak for myself, I think the group would agree to it as well. I think there's an opportunity for impact and maybe lesser budget items, but things that are brought up and referenced that would impact the municipality. So from a capital improvement versus impact. And so when we look at impact, it could be under $50,000, could be under $25,000 type things that would make a significant impact to the life and to the quality of life of residents in the township. Sometimes we get, hey, we're talking about a $19 million roof at the rec center. That's not a conversation that this group's going to, we can say, hey, we support this, or hey, the turf at Dixon. Those are capital projects that have to be approved. We would support those. I think an area of an opportunity for this group to be a lot more effective is to really look at impact. What are the things that we can do within the community to impact the quality of life of the residents? And so I would say we've talked about this. Lower cost, Phil, we've had these conversations, for him to go buy a $50,000 machine, has to go through his budget, but that machine would impact tons of things across, with parks and trails and all these other areas. And I think sometimes we get lost in, this is a capital conversation that we're sometimes thinking like, why are they asking us about concrete at the rec center? And there's other areas that could be influenced. So I kind of just throw that out there in future consideration. When you go back to the commission, how can we be more effective in our messaging? Supporting big projects, but I think there's always the smaller impact opportunities within municipality.
Tom, thank you. I think that's a point well made. And, we've kind of balanced like, project X for 50 million versus project Y for 25,000, when we need to rank order them. And that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, in the overall scheme of things. So maybe we could figure out how to say, okay, here's a list of projects, the total, and I'm making up numbers, total $5 million or something. Prioritize those based on community impact, and also we support the big ticket stuff too, or we don't support it for whatever reason.
I agree that something like this trail connectivity and mapping, that's a perfect example of something that we were able to kind of pull from the plan, and something that kind of might have gone under the radar, right? But we felt that that's important for the community,
Mm,
so that's
mhm.
why we brought that
This was
up,
number 2.
right?
Yeah.
And one of the unique things out of that, which I still find intriguing, is there's this misinterpretation or connection of what's a school district field or asset and what's a municipality asset. So people look at it and say, they don't know, there is no, so until we started doing signage and understanding wayfinding, people still don't, in many cases, don't understand what is school district owned versus what is, or it's more maintained than owned, right? What's maintained by the district versus what's maintained by the municipality. All right, so David, we'll get back to you if there's, I'll have Amanda regroup on that if there's anything we want to provide, or for that matter, if it's agreeable, any impact ideas that come out of that we can.
Yeah, I mean, as always, it's prioritize what's there, add whatever you like. So it's your document, so just give it some thought and we can plow into it at the next meeting.
All right, with that, next meeting, next regularly scheduled meeting is Wednesday, March 18th, 2026 at 6 o'clock in this room. We'll have the Zoom webinar set out in advance if there's any citizens' comments or board members that are unable to participate. So, without anything else, we'll call the meeting.
I'm sorry, very quickly, because we don't want to get out of here. I think we've talked about a meeting or two ago, the Conservancy, Lebanon Conservancy, working on a riparian restoration project in Twin Hills. Ring a bell, Phil?
Yes.
And so the Conservancy would, very much planning on moving ahead with that, assuming that the municipality has no objections there too. And in fact, Elaine Kramer has put together a grant application brought to our attention by Cheryl Mayo. Anyhow, maybe one of our other Conservancy board members, her employer, which is Eaton Industries, has a grant potential of up to 10 grand that we could use for plantings and such. So I just want to make sure that everyone's copacetic and we're not.
I owe them a couple field visits. So.
Okay.
And I think, speaking to your comment, it drives back, Nick, I think great ideas need to be aligned with the ability to execute. And a lot of times, ideas come out and it's you can't do it based on, code or geographics or boundaries or wetlands so I think a lot of these ideas that come out of this, are supported either through Public Works or through the Conservancy, and making sure that we don't spend a lot of time coming up with, hey, we've got this great idea and it doesn't align with reality.
Yes.
You can never do it. So I think that's a part of it as well, as making sure that when we come up with these ideas, that no one is strung along in the process to say, great idea, never gonna happen, or, hey, that's a great idea, this is what has to happen for you to be able to execute on it. So I think it's something that we go back and look at that too, to be more effective, and that could be an impact area of, this is an area, we support it, we think the Twin Hills project should be prioritized. What is in our way from either a resource or an expense or a time? But maybe more importantly, are there legal obstructions, or there are things that no one can get over that we're unaware of? So that would be helpful from your perspective as we raise these issues.
And if I could just circle back to the improvements projects real quick. If you look at that main park master plan, which is now on our website and in your folder, that'll have projects there too that aren't necessarily on the list that I provided you with. Someone asked at the last meeting, well, how does that plan get moved forward? Well, this is one way it could get moved forward. And of course, as I mentioned then, we have some of those elements from that plan, some of those recommendations are already approved and in motion, like returfing the field, adding lights, and that kind of thing. And pickleball.
I have just two complaints that were referred to me for Bird Park that I just want to put over. There have been complaints about the lights
they're too bright, too late, or something like that, it's
The ones coming from Beedling Circle back
Yes.
in
Yeah.
the park.
Yeah. That was a complaint somebody had. And then the other was, I just heard, some of the plantings that were put in the Bird Park, riparian area, particularly some hawthorn trees have been cut down in Bird Park, and we're not sure who's doing it or what's going on with that, if it's somebody misidentifying and cutting them down, because they do have thorns, so people may think that they shouldn't be there, but
Right.
I think Elaine was a little disconcerted that the plants that we paid for and put in have been then removed, so.
I
Where
can
did
tell
you
you I
say
have
they
a
were?
quicker resolve to your first issue than your second one.
Okay.
The trees that were, you're talking from your most recent project?
I
So
think it was in there too.
Bird down by stream area, in the riparian area?
Yes, I think that the hawthorns were in the riparian.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So dead end of Youngwood, that large project they did through the stream there. I can tell you that we're not, as of right now, we have not been actively going, and looking for
So it's
it.
just
It's not a public
an
works function, I'll
overzealous-
tell you that. Yeah, the last
overzealous
month has not
citizen.
been
Okay.
anything but that white stuff in piles.
We
so-
tried to put a sign being like, please leave this tree, but
Yeah,
they didn't.
That's very strange.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially when you ID everything so well down there with explanations, it seems intentional, I would think.
Do you think it was just vandalism, or do you think someone didn't like those trees?
I mean, I think hawthorns, when they don't have leaves on them and they're thorny and they look threatening, I don't know if that's it or
Do
if
they have
somebody.
the little sleeves around
I
them?
mean, they did, yeah,
That's so weird.
That is strange.
right? Yeah, we don't know why, we're just bringing it to
We need
the,
to add your donated by sign, right? So that-
Yeah.
That's frustrating.
or put a picture of
memory
what
of-
it looks
yeah,
like,
in
what
memory
is
of.
pretty.
There you go. Seriously, the public information office could probably whip something up for you, and because we did that with the sand wasps at the
Yeah.
sand volleyball courts, like a
Right.
little education so people don't just, assume the worst.
Okay.
Anything
That
else?
was it.
Okay,
Anything else?
I'm good.
Open forum? Nope, okay. Call a meeting at 7:28.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.